We're rolling. All right. Despite our best efforts, we actually are live. Despite our best efforts. Anyway, welcome everybody. First of all, let me introduce Paul. Paul is a friend and a client. Actually, Paul, why don't you take a minute or two to just give a quick background. Basically, your music history, I guess, your audio history, and what you do.
Definitely.
By the way, everybody look at this shirt. It says, "Not an audiophile."
You can see it behind the mic. I don't know if it's...
and I don't know your name, the watch guy. See if you can spot his watch.
Oh, you got your work cut out for you.
I think he actually stops the video and he blows it up.
Pauses it.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Thanks, Adrian. I've been a music lover my whole life. I grew up with music. My dad was a music lover. He was big into opera and symphonies. He's actually from Vienna, and so he grew up going to the symphony and that kind of stuff. So it was kind of in his blood. And growing up as a son, I was exposed to a lot of that, including Austrian polkas on Saturday mornings. I got into stereo stuff kind of at that ripe age in late high school. And most high school kids have like a picture of a Ferrari on the wall and Cindy Crawford. I had Cindy Crawford and cutouts from Stereophile of Wilson speakers. So they were always really aspirational for me.
Tell them your first job.
My first job was actually at Radio Shack. And I'm such an audio nerd. I was so nervous. I went to go for an interview with the district manager. And at the time, I was getting into headphones because that's all I could afford. And I had built what was called, maybe you remember this, it was called the Headbanger. And it was a headphone amp you could actually make from Radio Shack parts. And I brought it to the interview like, look, I made this. You should hire me. And he was like, yeah, you're in, kid. Don't worry about it. So that was my first job at Radio Shack, just because of that in part. So.
And what's your system now?
So now I have Sasha's. I got Sasha DAWs. And it's driven by Luxman. So I have a Luxman M10X. Sorry, guys. I betrayed Adrian. So
He's the one
C10X and
who
M10X.
always comments, how come no Luxman reviews?
Not
That's
just
him.
me.
That's him.
There's a few of us. But it's, yeah. So anyways, that's kind of where I'm at. And it was a really special time where I finally, my wife and I moved into a house and I could actually get a proper stereo system and not just have headphones. And so I had the opportunity to get some Wilson speakers, and it was a very proud moment because I wanted that for like 20 years. So it was really nice, and Adrian treated me so well. And
my pleasure.
awesome.
And what is it that you do now?
Me,
I assume you grew up from Radio Shack.
Yeah, obviously. Now I'm an assistant store manager at a Radio Shack,
which no longer exists, by the way.
Yeah, no kidding, right? So now I'm in the trades actually. So I'm a regular blue collar Joe, and that's my day job. So I'm just a regular working schlep, basically.
Very, very cool. All right, thank you for that. And thanks for joining us. By the way, he's the first of our torture experiments. We'll be getting more clients to join us because I think some of you might enjoy that. It's always nice to have a fresh perspective from somebody else as opposed to just the three of us all the time. Today we're going to talk about the What Puppies, and then we're going to compare it to the Sabrinas. Part 2, where Paul is also going to join us for the Sashas. So we'll compare the What Puppy to the Sashas. For the most part today, I'm going to be moderating. Otherwise, the video will be very, very, very long. And we'll mostly hear from the three boys and see what they think. So let's start with Lewis, since he's to my left or right.
So I have 2 songs which I play to test, as well as clients what come in for audition. Anyways, the first one was Gordon Goodwin, Big Fat Band, Sing Sang Sung. If you love a great mix of instruments blended into big sound, drums, bass, clarinet, especially clarinet, which I really love. You get all the power from this song. The bass is really good. Dynamics, fantastic. And it's well articulated with detail. I will give you my wrap up at the end.
The teaser.
The teaser, yeah. Anyways, so my other song is Grover Washington's cover of Dave Brubeck's Take 5.
Didn't he do just the two of us? Grover Washington Jr.?
Yeah.
Just the two of us?
Yes, he did it with, actually he did that song with Bill Withers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
So-
because I associate him with that song. Okay.
Yeah. So anyways, the take 5, Grover just lays down the sax with such authority, you know. It's a well-recorded track, and I often play. Love this rendition song. Then I moved over to some female vocals too. Somebody who I discovered recently was Lady Blackbird. And she has this song called Fix It. Her vocals are so powerful. She reminds me a lot of Nina Simone, which I really love as well too. Her voice is compelling. It makes you want to listen to her more. The Lady Blackbird album is fantastic. I recommend that for somebody who likes somewhat jazz sound of somebody like Nina Simone as a reference. I played Diana Krall. One of this song, which was one of my favorite songs growing up back in the 60s, The Look of Love. Just love that song. She did it live. Her voice is like velvet, smooth like glass, and it's just so beautiful. Her piano chops are pretty good. Very well, balanced sound. Well recorded as well.
So, Louis, how did you like the What Puppy versus the Sabrina?
Okay, so the two, it's like back in the 70s, I remember this group called War. And they had one, Me and Baby Brother, that song. Well, the big brother here is definitely the What Puppy. The dynamics, how it plays string instruments is over the top. I'm not saying the SabrinaX is not good, but it just does not come to the class of the new What Puppy. It's a standout, and I'm going to go on record, and it's now my favorite sounding Wilson speaker.
He's
My
so
son
prejudiced. Unbelievable.
My son will kill me for that because he says the Wilson SabrinaX is the best. So, anyways, he hasn't heard the What Puppy yet because he's traveling. So, yeah, I'll get him in here and here's.
So you like the What Puppies?
Oh, I don't like them. I love them. As I said, with stringed instruments, and it's at another level. People, you have to come and hear this for yourself. It's another level.
By the way, I again, because we screwed up and got so late to recording, I forgot to mention some of the housekeeping stuff. The What Puppy is $38,500 US. The SabrinaX, which we're going to compare it with, I should say, is $21,500 US. The What Puppy was designed to celebrate Wilson's 50th anniversary. So we did an unboxing, uncrating, I should say. Mike will link the video in the description. And the system that we used, the Lumen P1 is a streamer / DAC. So we used the internal DAC, but we also, I'll talk about it in a moment, we also used the Acuface E5000 integrated. And then I think, I don't know if the boys did or not, but I did also listen to the Macintosh C2800 preamp with the Macintosh C MC462 power amplifier. And when I used the Macintosh, I would sometimes use the internal DAC of the Lumen, or I would also switch over to the internal DAC of the Macintosh just to see the resolution and see whether the differences were obvious. So that's a system that we used. The room is roughly, well, he's in the trade, so he can probably tell us, 16 by 18 by actually 20 feet high, fake ceiling at 9 feet. For the rest of the world, that's 6.3 meters by 7.1 meters by 7.9 meters. Okay, sorry. Sorry, did I cut you off?
No,
That's good for now?
no.
All right. Paul, go ahead.
Yes. First of all, I didn't say this, but thanks for having me here, guys. It's really an honor and a
it's
privilege
entirely
to be
our
here.
pleasure.
So,
No.
I want to start with a brief story. Bear with me here. And so when Adrian invited me to be on the show, my first thought was, what songs do I use to talk about the music and that the audience might relate to? And I think I kind of put the audience on maybe on a graph or a chart. And I said, on one side, there's probably really like the gearhead who's all about tweaking and getting the absolute most out of every iota of performance. On the other side, there's somebody maybe who has a feigning interest in gear, but really loves music and just knows every record and every album ever made. And I thought, what album would those two people share in common? And I don't, sorry,
And
polka,
that's why you mentioned
right?
polka.
Obviously, that's why I brought it up. So I don't know what that album would be, but I'm pretty sure it's by Radiohead. And so one of the songs I played right off the get-go was Fake Plastic Trees. It's off their second album, The Bends. And I was listening and kind of listening through it and just kind of getting warmed up. And there's a line in here, I want to read it. Tom York comes on and he says, "She lives with a broken man, a cracked polystyrene man who just crumbles and burns." And I've heard this song a million times. It never hit me until I heard it on the Watt Puppies. And I got emotional. I welled up. Like it just... The angst of that, like the soul that these can convey and even from this person who has Sasha's, they really got to me, like in my soul. I was surprised. And it did the usual audiophile stuff, like Tom York's voice when he sings, he has this almost kind of surreal floating in air and the band is behind him. It did all of that articulation, but it has soul. And it wasn't something that people say, oh, maybe speakers don't have soul. It was electronics, it was the Accuphase. But I listened to the same song with the Sabrinas, the same system, same room, same clothes, same everything, and it didn't grab me like that. And it's never grabbed me, not that particular song like this. So there is something very, very magical about the life that the Watt Puppies bring to the recording. The next song I listened to is a cover of a song called Teardrop, which was by Massive Attack on an album called Mezzanine. It's a super famous album. It's an awesome record. The cover is by a guy named Newton Faulkner, and it's on his debut album called Hand Built by Robots. And in that song, he starts off and he's singing and he's playing on his guitar and he's kind of tapping with his hands. And for the first time with the Watt Puppies, I realized something. Faulkner was nervous when he was playing this. And how did I hear that? You could actually hear that his fingers were sticking to the guitar. In the words of Eminem, his palms were sweaty. He was nervous. And it was amazing to hear that. Like people talk about plankton or spit bubbles in singers' mouths and all that kind of stuff. The Watt Puppies, man, oh man, these things are so detailed. And compared to the previous generation, like the Sashas and Sabrina's, the Sasha DAWs don't have that resolution, at least not that I've ever heard. And living with both of those speakers.
That's because you use Luxman, man.
Maybe it's Luxman, but it was so incredible. And in the middle of the song, there's this bass drop, and it's almost an acoustic track, but like the whole room just pressurized. And it's something on a lesser system you don't really hear how much bass there is and how strong it is. Like the Sabrinas they're outclassed. They just can't keep up with the Watt Puppies and how they just have this impact. You feel it in your guts, in your bones. Like it was incredible, that visceral power that they have and can just deliver, in addition to all of the detail and the resolution and the vocals and the soul. Like they're the whole package. And I feel like tuning wise, it's interesting to hear Sabrina versus the Watt Puppies, because I think the Watt Puppies and like the Sasha V's are tuned differently than the previous generation Wilson. They're evolving. The Sabrinas are warmer. They're more soulful. They're not even soulful. They're more smooth. I don't want to say buttery, but they have that kind of, they're just a more laid back, casual speaker. The Watt Puppies and I think the Sasha V's, we'll get to those maybe later, but they're much more forward. They're more detailed. They're more crisp. They're just a very, very clean sounding speaker. And so I was really surprised by the contrast of the two and just how differently voiced they are, even just from one generation to the other. Because if somebody said the Sabrinas are a different brand, I would believe them. They're that different. And that's not knocking Sabrinas. Like Sabrinas are a great speaker. Like I had them before my Sashas, and I had them for a long time and I loved them. So there's no knocking there. The sound stage that the Watt Puppies can do is so much deeper, and not even deeper, but the Sabrinas, when you listen to them back to back, are compressed. They don't have that kind of three-dimensionality. One of the other songs I listened to was by a singer called Cat Edmondson, pardon me, and the song's called Lucky. And she's just this wonderful English vocalist, and she has this charming voice. And when you play it, she's like right here in the room. And with Sabrina, she's kind of there and you get this idea of an image. But with the Watt Puppies, you can smell her perfume. She is so vivid and like tactile. And that was just an incredible experience to listen to the two back to back and getting that very sharp contrast. So I'm rambling.
Wow, that's unbelievable. Paul?
He's doing good.
You missed your calling, Paul.
Oh, rambling?
No, you should be a journalist.
Oh.
All right, Mike, take it up.
We uncrated these, and I had the expectation that they would be very similar to the Sabrinas. And Paul is right. They are very different, and I wouldn't be surprised if I was A, B in them, and I said, oh, that's a Sonus Faber, and that's a Wilson. There is a dynamic that comes through with the Watt Puppies that makes songs come alive. So I went on a little nostalgic road trip. I was listening to the first full-length Tool album. The engineer, her name is Sylvia Massey. She was still experimenting with Tool sounds. So Tool had a little bit of a different sound back then. Their sound now is very articulate and clear and very, very crisp. Back then it was very, very plump. And the drums, and Paul's right, on the Watt Puppies, when there was a drum roll, it pressurized the room. It was visceral. I loved it. And I've always loved the Sabrinas. When I first started working here a year and a half ago, the Sabrinas, I set them up on my first week. And I remember hearing them in the client's home going, these are some of the best speakers I've ever heard. And I've always had that opinion. In their price range, they're fantastic speakers. And I had the expectation when I was A and B in them that they were going to sound similar, but they are very different. It's almost like they're two different manufacturers. Everything was just better. It's simple. Everything was better on the Watt Puppies. Of course, there's a dollar difference. I understand that, but the sound stage. So that first Tool album has lots of effects, more effects than you hear in the more modern albums. Lots of effects that move front to back, side to side. Lots of phasing on the drums, and there was a clarity that came through on the Watt Puppies in the sizzling of the phase and the crispness that came through that the Sabrinas just lacked. It wasn't there. It still sounded fantastic, but the Watt Puppies they floored them. They really did. I also listened to Nine Inch Nails' Pretty Hate Machine. I'm mentioning albums here, not songs. Because I've been working in this room for the entire time these guys have been in here, so I've been listening to everything. Everything had an articulation and a crispness on the Watt Puppies. So all the little buzzes and distorted effects, they just had a crispness and a liveliness to them, and you could feel with immediacy the levels, the soundstage, front to back was amazing. It was really eye-opening. The Sashas, both the DAWs and the Vs, kind of have lived in this room. They're always in here. One is because they were on wheels, and it was easy to wheel them in and out. And they're impressive, and they look beautiful. So it's a showstopper, right? We keep them in this room because they look good, they sound good. So I'm very familiar with both the DAW and the V. I think I like these better.
That's part two. That's part two.
I know.
We'll do the comparison later. Louis, you said you were going to talk about something later. What's the...
It's when we say one is better than the other, or you like one better than the other, there is also a price difference. But forgetting about price, I'm telling people this Watt Puppy is way above pay grade. It's I'm telling you, I've listened to the Sasha V's and the DAWs. I've listened to them all. And I'm telling you, this has something special. It plays the treble and mid-range so much better I'm just wondering what happened here because Wilson, you came up with this is a killer. And the stringed instruments, as I said, they are not sharp.
No.
You know, they just play. And, you know, I guess with my age and diminished hearing, it just sounded so good. And the standout with the, you know, instruments, it's and the separation and everything, it's just amazing.
They're articulate. Like you can feel
Yes.
the string. But the way for me, because I own the Sabrina, so I was really looking forward to coming back and listening to them because it would be a bit of a nostalgia trip, right? It's kind of like seeing like an old friend again. And what it was kind of like, I'm going to steal an Adrian thing and do a car analogy. I'm not a car guy per se. My cousin is, and he's owned a lot of cool cars over the years. And one of his first cool cars was an Acura RSX. Mm-hmm. So this was in the 90s. And at the time, I remember being like 17. I thought, oh, this is so amazing. Like everything's so nice. It's so luxurious. It handles so well. And I've driven a lot of cooler stuff now. And I had an opportunity to drive an RSX maybe about a year ago. And I got in and I was like, oh, this is what I was so excited about? Oh, the new stuff's kind of better. And not to knock SabrinaX's, but if you can spring for the Watt puppies, like, my gosh, they are a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
Like
Did you have the X's? Is that what you had, the SabrinaX?
SabrinaX, yeah. I had exactly these.
Yeah.
They're great.
The one thing I will comment, just again, because we want to make sure we open in time. What's cool about both the Sabrina and the Watt Puppy in this particular case is that dimensionally, in terms of floor space, they're very, very similar. So if you have an issue with room space, the nice thing is that the Watt Puppy will fit. If the budget allows, the Watt Puppy will fit in your room. If the Sabrina fits, the Watt Puppy will certainly fit. So I think that was perhaps, I don't know if this was a specific calculated decision at Wilson, but the fact that dimensionally they're somewhat similar means that if you have Sabrinas, you can upgrade to the Watt Puppy quite easily. Similarly, if you have the Yvette or Sophia's and so on, it just makes it very easy to accommodate. Whereas I can see some people being a little bit concerned with the Sashas because now you get wider and deeper and physically it looks taller and it can be more imposing. But I think the Watt Puppy is okay size-wise. You know, it's slender and it's a bit taller, but it doesn't take up that much more floor space, if any. Maybe a little bit deeper, but nothing major.
Nothing major.
So I guess unanimously everybody hated the Watt Puppy.
No.
Terrible. Fine.
They only
No.
The way it controlled the bass.
Get it? That imaging? Who wants that?
I came in one morning, I was looking at what music was playing through the playlist, and I'm seeing Mike's playlist. He's playing Yes. He's playing all this horrible progressive music. I'm thinking, what kind of, sacrilegious music are they playing on my treasured?
It sounded so good on this.
Actually, I have to agree.
I played some Nirvana too. And
I listened. I have to agree. I was playing Yes after I saw it. That's really good. Wow, this sounds really good. But yeah, I overall I would say the boys have done a much better job than I could ever have in terms of expressing what the speakers do, but more importantly, how it also plays music. Nobody mentioned any audiophile music here. It's all actual music. And Paul purposely, out of his 10 or 15 shirts that he owns, he chose this T-shirt that says "Not an audiophile." So, and he proudly wears that. So good for him. Anyway, thanks for watching. This is great. I'm so glad that Paul joined us. Part 2, we'll do our listening again this coming week, and then hopefully we'll be able to shoot it the following Friday. Lewis is away, so we'll wait till Lewis comes back. But maybe Lewis might want to listen to it today and compare the before you go away, so you take your notes, and then we'll shoot the following week when you come back. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and love to hear comments as usual. I love to read, even when you guys hate on us. It's funny. I actually perversely find it very funny. So go ahead, slag us, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I don't know if I ever told the story, but years ago, a client of mine decided to sell. He goes to all these garage sales, and he bought, literally thousands and thousands of records, brought them in trailers. He's a vet, and he brought all these records in his trailer, and he asked me to sell them. And among the collection, I swear to God, not a word of a lie, must have been maybe 300 or 400 polka albums. 300 to 400 polka albums. And of course, we tried to sell a bunch of them. The polka albums never sold, but people would flip through the records and then mix the polka albums with my records. So when the time came to reconcile, I paid them what we thought we sold. And then I went through one day and I'm going, how come I have all these polka albums? Because people were going through the albums and not putting them back where they're supposed to and putting them together with my $100 and $200 living stereo reissues and Mercury. Anyway, polka. Yeah.